Hey writers, this is a very important lesson and clip from our course, The Right Structure, where we get into what really makes stories work. The thing that brings the drama for all storytelling, whether you're writing a novel, whether you're writing a screenplay, whether you're writing an anecdote in a nonfiction book, this is what makes stories work. The reason that we're sharing it is because this is just one lesson that's part of one class and a whole library of amazing classes that are on sale right now. We're doing a flash sale for 90% off on all of our classes, and you can get this one and many more, including classes on how to make money as a writer, how to get published, whether you want to self-publish or traditionally publish, how to sell books, how to write faster. So many amazing lessons and classes that you can get for a few more days if you get our discount. This discount is going to go away in just a few days, so make sure to get that now. But if you missed the discount, that's okay. You can get all of our classes. I'll put the link in the description where you can find those. All right, enjoy the lesson. Happy writing. See you soon. Let's get into these 4 tools of story structure. And the most important of all of these, and the place that I really want to start, is here with a dilemma. The dilemma is not technically a tool. It's part of the 6 elements of plot. But for me, and for so many writers in our community, this has really changed everything about our approach to our stories. And I think it will be so helpful for you too. If you take nothing else from this training, I just want you to know what a dilemma is and start to use it in your writing and just see how it shows up in stories, okay? So a dilemma is when a character is faced with a choice between 2 things. It's a difficult choice between 2 things. And that choice has to be between 2 good things or 2 bad things. It's not a real choice if it's a bad thing and a good thing, right? That's not a choice. But you have to get your character into a place in every story where they have to make an almost impossible choice between either 2 good things or 2 bad things. So let's look at some practical examples of this, because I know that that's kind of abstract, okay? So let's look at Romeo and Juliet and just think about that story for a second and let me know in the chat, what do you think the dilemma of that story is? What is the moment when the character, Romeo and Juliet, have to make an impossible choice in this story? Who knows what the dilemma is in Romeo and Juliet? What's the moment where they have to make a choice? Girl or family or tribe? So that's a kind of general choice. I want you to think about the specific moment. Robert's on the right track. Romeo sees Juliet and thinks she's dead. And what does he have to choose? What is the choice that he has to make? One of the things about this is that you want to think about this in terms of some kind of consequence, right? So what is the choice that he has to make? What is the consequence of that choice? Robert says, live without her or join her in death. Lorraine, does he live without her or not? Yeah, you guys are totally right. So think about the ending of Romeo and Juliet. Romeo sees Juliet, just as Robert's saying, he thinks she's dead, right? And he has to make a choice. Does he live without her? Does he live in a world without her and have life? That's a good thing, right? Living in general. But the consequences of that is that he would be without Juliet, without the love of his life. Would it be better to live in a world without your beloved? Or should he kill himself? Should he commit suicide and join her in death? So that's the question. That's the dilemma in Romeo and Juliet. Okay. Kathleen, your dilemma is between the one being together or family. So that's definitely part of it. Yeah. Does he choose to agree with his family, to kind of stay with his family and just kind of let Juliet go, but also break his heart and his soul because he feels like he belongs with her? So let's look at another example from The Lion King. Okay. Let me know what you think the dilemma is from The Lion King. One thing that's interesting about this dilemma is it sort of appears close to the second act, like it's kind of in the middle, not quite to the final act. Usually the dilemma is in the final act, like right before the climax. We'll talk more about that in a bit.
Hakuna Matata or go back to his former world. Yeah, John, you've got it. Christina, Simba's ashamed. He feels guilty because he thinks he was responsible for his dad's death. He does for sure. Does he go back home? Yeah. So the moment is, I think it's Nala, right? His girlfriend wants him to go back and he's feeling ashamed. He feels guilty. He doesn't want to go back. And the question is, do you stay and live this Hakuna Matata lifestyle and kind of forsake your family, forsake your old home? Or does he go back and confront Scar, his uncle, and risk being killed, right? So save his life for his own selfish ends, Hakuna Matata lifestyle, or potentially lose his life by going back and facing his uncle, but doing the right thing for his family and friends. So that's the question in The Lion King. All right, let's take a look at an example from Frozen. Anyone know what the dilemma is from Frozen? It's right at the end. Hopefully, has everyone seen Frozen? Fight or flight? Yep. It's interesting. A lot of dilemmas are just fight or flight, right? So talk more about that. What is her choice? Saving her sister or saving herself? Yes, you've got it. Good job. Saving her sister. Does Anna, Princess Anna, save herself or does she save her sister? And it's this amazing moment. And I thought it would be really fun to actually look at this example. So I'm going to switch over to my video. So some context for people who haven't seen this film, right? And this is a spoiler, by the way. So I don't know if you want to like mute me if you're planning to see it, but it's been a while and it's like one of the most popular cartoons of all time. So that might be on you. But in this section, Princess Anna has been frozen. She has ice in her heart from her sister, and she's about to freeze unless she performs an act of true love. And her thought was that her act of true love is going to be kissing this boy. What's his name? Kristoff, right? And so he's running to save her. She's running to him. And then we see what happens. Let me just back up. All right, there we go. So it's clear, right? And yes, I do have some tears in my eyes because that's just how it goes. That was great, right? So you can see that there's a couple things going here. And I actually want to go back to it because there's both a dilemma. Someone in the chat mentioned that there is a dilemma both in the story. This is the dilemma of the story. Does she choose to save herself or sacrifice herself for her sister, right? That's the dilemma of the whole story, right? It's all been building up to this one question. And there's a dilemma in every scene. And in this scene, you can actually see the moment of the dilemma. Now, usually a dilemma isn't like explicitly written out, but I want you to just watch this moment for a second, okay? Because this is something that you need to be paying attention both in the stories that you're reading and watching, but also the stories you're telling. That's it. That was like 5 seconds, right? She's looking to save herself. She's looking at Kristoff, and then she's seeing her. What's his name? Prince Hans, right? She's seeing Hans, and she has to make a choice. And that kind of looking back and forth. Do I go this way or do I go that way? That is a dilemma, okay? That is a moment. It's a brief moment, 5 seconds, right? But that's what a dilemma is. And that's going to happen in your stories. You might not see the dilemma. It might not actually show up on the page, but this moment where they have to choose, there are two options. They can go this way or this way. That is the moment that you need to pull out of your story because this is the drama. And notice that right after that is the climax of the entire story. She saves her sister, and then Princess Anna turns to ice. And then she kind of comes back because she did this act of true love. That is the climax of the story. And it comes right out of the dilemma. And that's why the dilemma is so important, because it actually creates the climax. It creates this turning point in the whole story. So if you take nothing else from this entire day, this entire workshop, as we're talking about story structure, take that dilemmas need to be in your stories, that dilemmas need to be in your scenes, and that there are these really simple, small moments, 5 seconds of looking this way or that. What do you choose? And it might not even show up on the page, but it's there. It's kind of in the subtext of the scene, and it changes everything. And just as I said, every story has a dilemma, but also every scene has a dilemma. You need to be writing these into your scenes. And we'll talk more about how to do that and how that works practically later on. If you're wondering what a scene is one story event. It usually takes place in one setting. It doesn't always. If you're writing film, it always does. Okay. But if you're writing a novel or a memoir, it doesn't always take place in one setting, but usually it does. The average length of a scene is 1,500 to 2,500 words, and every one of them needs to have a dilemma. It's so important. And again, if you pay attention to nothing else in your first draft, pay attention to the dilemma. So if you're working on a first draft, this is something that you should be focusing on, especially if you're a pantser and you don't want to plot out everything. Just look for the dilemma. Look for that dilemma in every scene. Look for it in your story, and know that you're trying to build up to that dilemma, that everything, all the conflict that's taking place is really pushing you to this moment of a dilemma. Okay. All right. So on your planner worksheet or in your planner, there is a section where you can fill out the dilemma for your story. What difficult choice is the protagonist forced to make? It must be between two good things or two bad things. List the two options. And there's even a little format in that box. There's a kind of a way to put that in the right format. So fill that out for your story. What is the dilemma that you were facing in your story, that your character, your protagonist is facing? And fill that out in your worksheet and list, what are the consequences of that choice? If you choose that option, what are the risks? What do what could go wrong, right? If you choose the other option, what are the risks for that option? And I think that will help center your story, help you have a sense of where you're going, and also some of the hidden subtext of how to get there.
All right, that's it for our free lesson. If you want more training on story structure, on how to be a writer, on how to make a living as a writer, on how to get published and sell your books, how to write faster, and so many other great lessons, we have a link in the description where you can get 90% off on all of our classes right now only. Make sure you get that. If you miss it for some reason, if now is past the sale deadline date, don't worry, we still have these classes available. You can find the link there in the description as well. Thanks for watching. Happy writing, and we'll see you soon.